Hello and welcome back to the Who Pod. Today I'm going to be joined by the special guest who's never been on the Who Pod before, and that is George, aka Pickles Parker Reviews.
Yep, you've got it right. Hello, everyone. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's kind of weird doing this because I'm used to being the host on my
Yeah,
podcast, so I've never actually
it is
been
weird
on
being
another
the other way
podcast. So
around.
yeah, it's kind of odd, really, just relying on you to do everything. But yeah, hello, everyone.
Yes, obviously George's links will be in the description. You should definitely go and check him out.
Thank
He's
you.
very underrated, I think. You know,
Oh, thank you.
um, you know exactly what I mean
I
when
do. I do.
something I need to point out before we start is that obviously you've got a smoke alarm that keeps going off in the background that you
Yes.
are deafened to, that you don't know it happens. But I will try
I
to
do.
remove
I
it.
notice it sometimes, but not always. Yeah, it's kind of odd, but
Yeah, I'm gonna
yeah.
try to remove it as much as I can. But the likelihood is that it will definitely show up a couple of times. So you've been warned, I suppose. There it was. It just went right on cue
Oh
that time.
Christ.
Right.
It's
Okay.
weird, but I don't know whether it's just that I've got a headset on, but I did not hear that. That is scary because
You kind of
it's
get used
literally
to it.
just out there. So
I mean,
yeah, it's weird.
I've got a fish tank which makes quite a bit of noise. Obviously, it's unplugged at the
Mm.
minute. It's alright. I do plug it in afterwards. But for maybe about an hour, the next hour, it's going to be unplugged, and you kind of get this real emptiness. Like when I was
Mm.
sitting here waiting, there was this real emptiness because there was no background noise, and I have like mild tinnitus, like sometimes. So that is a very weird thing that I have in my room. But you do forget it's there. You know, I sleep there. It is
Yeah,
again. I sleep with it. Well, with the fish tank on, and I suppose you just get
yeah,
used to it. You probably should change the batteries though in your smoke alarm.
yeah. I
That's
asked my
probably what it needs.
Yeah, I think it's batteries. I think it's a number of things. I don't really know what's going on with
Get
it,
a
to be
new
fair.
smoke alarm.
Yeah, I asked my parents, and they say they sort it out. Conveniently, it hasn't happened
Yeah.
yet, but regardless. But yeah, it's weird. I do feel like I just, yeah, no, don't notice it, which is kind of scary. But
I
regardless,
mean,
it's just there. So be
hopefully you
warned.
will notice if there's an actual fire.
Yeah, hopefully, maybe not. Jesus. Yeah. Anyways, just be warned, everyone. You may hear a sinister beeping. But
Sinister beep.
yeah, it's
I thought
yeah,
we could
nothing
like
out of the ordinary.
relate it to something Doctor Who related, but I
Yeah,
realised that there's not really that there. Well, I mean, you can call it
yeah. I was
R2D2.
thinking in my head like just to make a joke out of that, but yeah, I can't really think of anything. I guess it could probably. I think the problem is imagine a sinister beep could apply to so many things in Doctor Who that it's just hard to just
Sinister
think of
beep.
one instantly.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
guess, but
Well, I probably should say what the actual title
it's about
of
smoke
of
alarms,
this. Yeah,
everyone.
we're talking about the best way to keep your smoke alarm fully
Yes.
charged and ready for all podcast recording abilities.
Mm.
But today we're actually going to be talking about Series 12 because it's Series 12's anniversary this month.
Where has
And
the time gone?
I know, I mean, everything went crap when Series 12
Pretty
ended.
much.
Think about how far we've come since then. Obviously, I didn't
Oh,
know any of you
Jesus.
back
Very
in
true.
March last year. But today we're going to be talking about our improvements we would make to Doctor Who Series 12 in order to improve it. Because for me, I think that there's an awful lot of promise and there's some really great
Mm.
stuff in there, but it does get bogged down with a lot of stuff that I don't think some of it needs mentioning, like the way Jodie acts and stuff like that is always saturated, and the Timeless Children, which is currently partly unexplained and all that kind of things. So
Yeah.
there's obviously the obvious things that you can talk about,
Mm.
but the first one I've written down, and obviously you've got your own note we will get to throughout this, is the marketing. Is the first thing I've written down.
Interesting. Yeah.
And by that I didn't mean like the build up and everything. I mean sort of the mid-series marketing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I know what you mean.
So you've got the Twitter posts that happened. I think they were Twitter that happened twice during
Mm.
the show's run, and the show ran for 9 weeks, which means that I think I did a video on this at one point. That we got like one every like 2 episodes, something like one every like 4 episodes or 3 episodes. as it worked out to be, which is very annoying. And those comments were things like, "You don't want to miss this one. This one's important. You gotta bleed and watch this one." And of course, that episode was Orphan 55. Which was annoying because it came just after the whole Spyfall thing and the whole Gallifrey's destroyed. And then they went and bloody brought out Orphan 55. And I think that was more of a betrayal, that one, that I felt quite betrayed. And they did the same with episode 5 with Jack returning. And I think that the biggest issue, I'll let you talk about your opinions on it in a minute, but the whole idea of doing 3 episodes to the finale, I think, really weakened those middle episodes. Like the finale's approaching kind of thing, all that kind of angle, I think was awful because it made the finale more pressurized, and it meant that it had to be good, and because it's been promised to us that it would be good and epic, and not just for 1 week or 2 weeks, like while the finale's happening, but the build up from like episode 5 onwards, since Jack appeared. There was always that thing that there was this big epic thing that was going to happen in the finale, and a lot of people thought that was Jack, and I think that's made a lot of letdowns. There was also a mid-series trailer as well just after that Jack episode as well, which I think led into the worst episodes of the series, to be honest, with Praxius. Can you hear me?
Yeah, certainly. I'd agree with you. I think that the marketing as a whole was just really bad. Like from obviously, but before the series aired, where there was just like nothing there, you wouldn't have known the series was on.
Yeah.
And then obviously, as you said, throughout the series, it was just, I think it just really made the series feel pretty inconsequential, because it was like, oh yeah, who cares about these episodes? The only episode you're really interested in is the finale. And yeah, it just kind of makes all of like the filler episodes in inverted commas like kind of feel irrelevant.
It's like they pointed out that they were filler directly, like
which is just,
don't watch these ones.
It's not only like a really weird like strategy to try and market it, but also I think that in other series, for example, some of the quote unquote filler episodes have ended up being like some of the best episodes of those series, like the stories that don't have anything to do with the arc. Like I think of like Series 4, Science at the Library, Forest of the Dead, has nothing to do with the arc. You could technically call it filler, but it's one of the best episodes of the series. Something like Series 5, for example, something like Amy's Choice or Vincent and the Doctor.
Amy's Choice is like my favourite episode of Series 5.
Exactly. And like something like Vincent and the Doctor as well. Those 2 episodes, some of the best of Series 5. They're nothing to do with the arc, really. So ultimately, like you get like gems in like within a series, and I feel like just technically trying to like take away attention from those, I think it also kind of really exposes, I think, obviously I know Chris Chibnall isn't involved with the marketing, but I think it really kind of exposes just like the thought process towards the series, where it was just like all in like very heavy on the arc, which is what they were really interested in. And it feels like all the other stories like no one really cared about, and especially you get certain stories. Well, this is one of my points. I don't know whether to lean into it here or to maybe cover it later. But one of my issues was that Chibnall's co-written stories, I think all of them, I think the problem is with Chris Chibnall's co-written stories is that it's very blatant to see which parts are written by Chibnall and which parts are written by other writers. That you think Fugitive of the Jadoon, I wonder which part is Vinny Patel and which part is Chris Chibnall. It's obvious. So, and I think the problem is it feels like some of the like disposable episodes, there wasn't much attention paid to them, and then also even some of them, Chris Chibnall just like completely wrote in to tie it into the arc in a major way anyway, kind of taking away. So I think there was like a big mistreatment of some of those filler episodes, but also just the marketing in general. I think I remember the marketing surrounding Haunting of Diodati was particularly bad because I remember, because obviously because of we knew the Sidemen were going to be in the finale.
Yeah.
And obviously there's the whole Mary Shelley Big Finish thing. So I think people kind of expected, the Sidemen to appear in Haunting of Diodati. I mean, it was still up in the air.
It was almost like it was everything but confirmed. I mean,
Yeah,
people
pretty
were like
much.
talking about it like it was happening, but there was no official word that it was. And that
Yeah.
whole thing that you were talking about the mistreatment of arcs and stuff is something that I actually wrote down in my list for later.
Mm.
But
Yeah, so did I.
yeah, you're right with the idea of sort of mistreatment of marketing with the idea that, I mean, if you remember, this was a long time ago now, but if I think it went from 2019, so obviously there's no series that year,
Yeah.
um, and I'm pretty sure that we had in May time the Jadoon reveal that there was
Oh
Jadoon in the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
episode, and then it went from Jadoon to nothing to like, I think there was like, and then sort of beginning in November, just like trailer, like there was like two trailers like a week after each other, which is a
Mm.
very very strange way of going about it. I think that everything, there's a lot of stuff with Doctor Who and well any TV show is to do with the mood that it's set by. Like you could say, you're just talking about the marketing. It's not really about the show itself, but I think that it is in the aspect that it puts you in the mindset and for example, this is a bit underrated, a bit of something else, but one division is all about, people are talking about theory after theory after theory, and I think that it's made it one very much like very interesting for me to sit and watch each week because you get the next piece
Mm.
of the puzzle, which is I think is what they wanted with One Division. But then
Yeah.
at the same time, I'm thinking some of these theories are probably much cooler than we're actually gonna get. I mean, like
Yeah, it's the
people were
problem with
throwing
theories.
around tons of stuff. Like people are throwing
Mm.
around Magnetos and
I have seen
Wolverines
that.
and like X-Men universe, like all of the X-Men coming through. Just
Yeah.
ridiculous, like over the top stuff that they probably wouldn't do in a TV show with
Mm.
only 2 episodes left at this point. Anyway, there's probably, I don't know, it might be over at the point that the podcast comes out, but maybe maybe the X-Men did all walk out of a Doctor Strange portal. But I think
Mm.
that the show, every show, is based off how you feel at the time. And I think
Yeah.
that with the reveal of the Cyber Warriors, if you remember that, they revealed the Cyber Warriors, I think the day or 2 days on the Friday afternoon, they released a trailer which had a shot of the Cyber Warriors
Mm.
saying, "Oh, look, the Cybermen are coming," and it's like, well, guys, we're gonna see the episode in 2 days, and it might have
Yeah.
been Villa Diodati actually, not um Ascension, but I mean at the same time, it's like, come on, guys, that you don't need to explain why that's not a good idea.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember on I'm pretty sure like 5 minutes before Haunting of the Diodati went out, I just thought, oh, I'll just check Twitter to see what people are thinking before the episode. I just see a tweet from the official Doctor Who Twitter that says, "Remember Jack's warning," and then a gif of him saying, "Beware the lone sideman."
I
And it's like,
know.
I wonder what's going to appear at the end of this
Come on,
episode.
guys.
I know it's like it was pretty like we all thought anyway, but like that just like why even make it like even like why make it a twist when you pretty much told us like as basic as you could have done
Yeah, that was
that the
like
Lone Simon was going
blatantly
to be
saying
in it
it.
like 5 minutes before the episode. Yeah, it's really bizarre.
Hmm.
And the thing is that this series almost felt like it couldn't contain like its reveals. Like it was just almost like the people behind it were so excited to get all the information out. But ultimately, when you look at the series in retrospect, a lot of the stuff that all the exciting reveals, at least for me, aren't really all that exciting in hindsight. So it's like I think there have been series with bigger and more exciting things
I mean, they're still
to
pretty
be
cool,
hidden. They
if I
are
see what you mean.
cool,
I
but
mean,
yeah,
the master reveal at the end of Spyfall Part One was
yeah, I think
amazing the first time, and
mm,
the second time that I watched it, I thought this is still pretty cool,
yeah,
but you don't get the buzz from it. But that goes for everything.
yeah,
And to do with the spoilers and spoiling itself, I know that Doctor Who guide Alex actually
mm,
had an issue. And I can speak on behalf of American fans about a different thing. I'll do that in a second. But he said that he saw the Jack reveal on YouTube because, like, the day after they
yeah,
shared it on YouTube, or like just after the episode aired, because for some reason, I don't know if this was always a thing, but Doctor Who airs in the UK about 8 hours before it airs in the US.
Hmm.
So Twitter goes crazy. And as you
Yeah,
know, there's a
true.
lot of Doctor Who fans that are American and not necessarily from
Yeah.
Britain. So it means that they get all the spoilers because there's no holding back. On even the BBC Twitters and YouTube accounts were posting the behind the scenes stuff the second the
Yeah.
episode aired. And in a world now where nothing is watched, well, I mean, apart from big fans that do reviews of it afterwards and just casual viewers, not many people, some of my friends didn't watch episodes of Doctor Who live. You'd go to school and it'd be like, oh, we can't talk about the episode yet because so and so hasn't seen it, and that became a
Yeah.
thing each week. Especially with the Jack reveal, it took Thursday before we could talk about it properly. And with that, there was this huge disconnect, and I'm surprised that the BBC just weren't, or the marketing people that were behind all that Doctor Who stuff were noticing it. Like, people binge shows, I think, now. I hate the idea of binging it because I don't binge things because just you don't process it. And Doctor Who is one of those things that you should be able to process.
Yeah, certainly.
And with Doctor Who and with its sort of American audiences and things like that, why are you spoiling your own show for people? Nothing's ever as good when you watch it secondhand, after you've seen something before.
Yeah, true. Yeah, certainly. And yeah, it's an issue. I think when I said like, oh yeah, the reveals, like there are more exciting reveals in other series, what I meant by that mainly is that I don't think, like, even though some of the reveals in Series 12 are cool, I don't think some of them are quite as exciting as they think they are. Like, for example, the Master appearing at the end of Ascension of the Cybermen isn't as
Yeah.
exciting as
Yeah,
I
that
think
was
they
not a great
thought
cliffhanger,
it
was it?
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they essentially told us anyway by putting the Barrack Stemus thing, out there, and
Yeah,
everyone had
come on,
already
guys.
figured it out. So everyone knew that the Master was going to appear, and yeah, and like, for example, even like Captain Jack, everyone knew Captain Jack was going to be in Revolution of the Daleks. So, but yet they built it up as a big deal. So
Yeah, the
I
big
don't think their
trailer
reveals, are
on,
quite
on
as
Doctor Who Day
oh
after the
Christ, yeah.
rewatch and everything, and then what do you get? 7 seconds of
Yeah,
footage.
still getting PTSD from that day now.
Of
But
something that we've already basically know but hasn't
yeah,
been fully confirmed. Actually, what it was basically confirmed by the fans because we saw him in the back of shots and things like that. It became obvious to us that he was in it. Um,
mm,
and yet, and yet, and yet they
yeah.
did it like we were so unaware he was coming back.
Mm. I think the thing is a lot of people said that Chibnall was a lot better of like holding things back than like Moffat was, and I thought so, but I'm not so sure that's true. I just think in Series
Um,
11 there wasn't really anything to like spoil, so therefore he kept everything
yeah,
under wraps because what
yeah.
was the press going to take from that? But ultimately, you've got to Series 12 and Revolution of the Daleks, and I think it's really proved that ultimately Chibnall isn't really better than holding things back. He's not better than Moffat was really.
I mean, Chibnall he has that idea of the 5-year plan and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
But it feels like because a lot of people's criticisms with Series 11 was that it wasn't epic and it wasn't arcful or it wasn't sort of, you didn't have any big twists. He went and gave us like 6. He was like, have this one and this one and that one and have it. And just, he's like, I'm going to do the maximum of what people didn't like about Series 11. I'm going to improve it, but I'm going to do the biggest that I can. I'm going to go over the top, so over the top that nothing has any meaning anymore,
Yeah, it does feel like he just threw everything at the wall and was seeing what stuck, and not much really did. He just chucks essentially everything into this series, and yeah, I think a lot of elements really really suffered because of that, and I think you get a lot of elements that are just kind of in there really for shock value alone. Like
Yeah,
a lot of
definitely.
stuff in Series 12, like I'd say essentially everything in Fugitive of the Jadoon is purely there for like news headlines because, like, for example, the Roof Doctor, as much as I think she's really great, she didn't really need to be in series 12. Like, she doesn't really set up anything. The Timeless Child comes across as well as it could have done, you know, without the Roof Doctor. So
Hmm.
she doesn't really need to be in there. And Captain Jack, yes, he appears in Revolution of the Daleks, but
He's probably done
it's
the
not
best,
like
isn't
he
he?
really, yeah, the thing is that he doesn't really have much of a rapport with the companion, so he could have just first appeared in Revolution of the Daleks, that's fine. He didn't need to appear in Fugitive of the Jejune
Yeah,
either. So it
just a
feels
little
like those two
tease.
things, yeah, were just kind of in there, and the whole episode of Fugitive of the Jejune was just kind of there for like shock value alone, and none of it really feels substantial or really had much of an impact on the story. And I feel like also, for example, like the Cyberman finale just kind of clashes with the Timeless Child finale. And again, it felt like Christian was like,
Mm,
oh, you didn't think Series 11 was epic enough? Well, just throw in a Cyberman battle and we go to Gallifrey and the Timeless Child, and
yeah.
none of it really comes together at all. But he just kind of did it anyway. And I think all of these story strands just kind of suffer because of it.
Yeah, I have a video coming out next week, and this is also beautifully put us on to our next point. And that was my idea that maybe they should have just picked one and ran with it.
Yeah, certainly.
So I actually listed a whole bunch of them here, but I think we've mentioned them during the course of the conversation we've had. But the Master and destroying of Gallifrey is a big thing, and they don't treat it much like it was
Yeah,
anything
true.
really. The Other Doctor, the Lone Cyberman, plus own stories between characters that they force in during Can You Hear Me with the
Yeah.
Yasmin, plus just companions in general, a Doctor, the whole. Sort of grieving for Gallifrey again, a new master, Jack. That's a lot of stuff, and I think that it would have been better if they focused on just one of them, or just maybe just like a couple. Like you have the hints of Jack and the lone Cyberman, and get rid of the whole destroying of Gallifrey and that kind of stuff. Because, like you said, the episode did kind of become a cool Cyberman episode, and then went, oh, Timeless Jordan now. We're talking about the arc. Um, and
Yeah.
I think it did, for me personally, I think it ruined that build up to it. Like, I've also written down here that I'd like to have seen episode 8 be its own standalone episode, because I think the idea of Mary Shelley seeing Frankenstein, you could do an amazing, like they kind of did with the potential of it, with Ashad
Mhm.
and the kind of half Cyberman, half person, and the kind of composite of parts and all that kind of stuff. What is lovely, and it's beautiful and really well constructed and all that kind of stuff. But then halfway through the episode changes its narrative from being, how are we going to keep Mary Shelley and Percy Shelley and all that away from the Cyberman? What does the Cyberman want? And then it becomes, oh look, it's the setup for the finale.
Yeah.
And I think that it's such a shame to me, and this would be a massive improvement that I would make, I would get that 8th episode as a standalone episode, possibly even earlier in the series, so that when you've paced
Mm.
out all of your reveals, because I think that this is a different point, but the fact that it starts off with the Master and then dips down for Orphan 55 and Nikola Tesla, and then comes back up for Jack, and then goes
Yeah.
back down again, and then comes back up, and it's almost like they paced it so badly that you go from 100% to 0% in an episode,
Yeah.
without any conversation about like what they just saw. Like the Doctor has just witnessed that she has like pasts that she doesn't know about, and so many secrets on Gallifrey, and then she's fighting a virus across the world.
Yeah.
It's very anticlimactic, and I think that it also makes Praxius look worse than it is, because I mean it's not terrible. I just found that it was very deflating going from Fugitive to that.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's the issue with both Praxius and probably Orphan 55 as well, is that people think they're worse purely because of what they came off the back of. Like, if I think the thing is, yeah, it's like with Praxius, it's because people were expecting or hoping for some of the stuff that wasn't really tied up in Fugitive to at least get a mention. Because it just doesn't get a mention, people are just like, oh,
Yeah,
everything else
definitely.
you watch is just going to be underwhelming. And I think what you spoke about, like that kind of like mid-story subversion where the story's going along and then halfway through it just becomes a completely different story. I think
Mhm.
that's the issue that a few stories in this series have. Like, obviously, the biggest one is probably the finale, obviously a Cyberman story. Then Psych, it's a Timeless Child story. But then I think, like you said, Haunting of
Yeah.
Via Diodati is like that. I'd argue Can You Hear Me is a bit like that. It's going along with its story, and then like Psych, no, it's just some exposition dump about where these characters
Psych.
supposedly are. Fugitive of the Jadoon as well, it's just a Jadoon invasion of Gloucester, and then the second half is just, two doctors going around. And then probably to a lesser extent, even Spyfall is where it kind of becomes, where it becomes all of a sudden a time hopping story in Spyfall Part 2 to defeat the Master. Whereas in Spyfall Part 1, it's obviously a kind of bon pastiche about investigating this tech
Yeah.
company. And what I think out of all those episodes, probably Spyfall carries it off the best, at least in my opinion, in terms of its subversion. I think it does pose an issue when none of these story elements seem to have time to breathe. Like they're just all kind of
Yeah.
being,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, just taken away. And it almost feels like Chris Chibnall is like a kid with a very short attention span, that he's just kind of writing it and then he just gets bored. He's like, I'll just, write
Yeah.
something completely different. And yeah, sometimes I think a story subversion can work, but I think the problem is that when you keep on getting it and not all of the instances in series 12 are successful, it just makes you question why you're getting so invested in earlier parts of the stories, only for then to that, completely be tossed out of the window when the story completely changes.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at it, there's no point in like Fugitive is taken as many people's favorite episode of series 12, and that is
Mm.
excellent. It's a good episode. It really is. Like it was very enjoyable, and every time I've watched it, I've still liked it. It's very well written, for a children episode, and the reveal is very cool, and Jack's nice in it, and things like that. But like you said, it is all very fan service based, arc based reveals, and it's less of a fun story and more of a setup episode.
Yeah.
It's lost its sort of. So I've been listening to the 10th Doctor Adventures,
Mm.
like the volume thing that they did with Billy Piper and
Oh yeah, yeah.
David Tennant. Very very good box actually, and with that, each one's an individual story, but they're very clever. You have like sort of multi-layered episodes with sort of different messages and stuff like that, which are
Mm.
very well done. Episode one's got a lot of that kind of stuff, and so does episode three, and episode three's got Ice Warriors as well, which is kind of cool. And
Yeah.
I
It's
think
a good
that
box set.
at the same time, Doctor Who Series 12 could have done with a bit more of that sort of like, because when I look at series 12, I don't think, oh, I'll just put on Spyfall, or I'll just put on Ascension, or like I'll just put on Prexius or whatever,
Mm.
because you kind of have to watch them as a full thing for me. Like
Yeah.
it is almost like it's one big binge fest, and there's no real, like you said, the filler episodes can be the best bits, and yet the filler episodes come off the back of some of the biggest episodes, the rewriting of time almost episodes,
Yeah.
and it sort of goes wee again, and it's dreadful when that happens. So you kind of get disheartened to watch a lot of series 12, but with series 11, um, you at least has that going for it, where each episode is alone and it's standalone in the aspect that it is good enough just for you to put one on. Like you can just put Klabam on, easy. And I
Mm.
think that with a lot of series 12, or series 2 and series 4 or whatever, you can easily just watch like Planet of the Ood or
Mm.
things like that. With there being just enough of an arc for it to sort of gel with the rest of the series, but it stands alone enough for the episode to be enjoyable. And I think that that's what I would do, is make them singular in more of just their idea and the placement of where they are that week, and make the actual story have a closure to it,
Mm.
so you get more from each episode.
Yeah, certainly, certainly. I noticed you actually said Klabam again when you
Ah,
were
for
talking
God's
about
sake!
Klabam.
Right, I know I
Uh,
can't say kabam, Kabam.
Uh,
Is it Kabam?
I, Kablam? Is that you've made me question
I know.
how the episode is even said now? But Kablam. I think that's what it
Kablam,
is. I
Kabam.
think you
There's no L,
said
so it
so.
before the
Yeah,
K, after the K, so it
but
must be Kabam.
but yeah. Carrying on from your point, those were the things I had written down was the arc to be better threaded throughout the series.
Yeah.
So. Like for example, my favorite series is Series 5, and I think one of the things that Series 5 does so well is that it threads the arc almost like perfectly throughout the series. So like the arc is in
Hmm.
many episodes, whether that's the crack or like character arcs. But I think one of the things that Series 5 does so cleverly is that ultimately it's not just, oh, here's a crack in a number of episodes across the series and then you'll find out what the hell that's about in the finale. You slowly learn more information about it across the series. So then in Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone, you learn that the crack erases people from time. You didn't know that before. And yeah, I'm trying to think of some other examples. I've completely forgotten my train of thought. But yeah, essentially then in Hungry Earth, Cold Blood, you realise that that explode. Well, essentially, in Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone, as I said, you learn that the crack erases people from time and that
Yeah.
it was caused by an explosion. Then Hungry Earth, Cold Blood, you find out that that explosion was the TARDIS. And then when you get to the Pandorica opens, then all of a sudden it's less of what the hell is going on with the crack in time. And because you've slowly learned more about it across the series, you have more knowledge about that. And then the finale becomes infinitely more like fascinating. And then also the arc is just like a lot more intriguing across the series as you're like almost drip fed information rather than just being told no information at all, which I think
Yeah.
is what it does so well. You get to series 12 and I think, as you said, one of the issues is, at least for me, is that the arc is just like not really, it's not like fluid across the series. It's more of there are several episodes where the arc is present and then episodes where the arc is not,
In any
rather than
way.
just the arc is kind of present,
No.
throughout, which I think would work better for viewing. The episodes are like there are clear filler episodes and there are clear arc episodes, which I don't think really works in the favor of the series. And also, I think the problem is why many people have said that the Timeless Children is just kind of like an info dump is because we're not really told anything about the Timeless Child across the series. So that's why the Timeless Children feel so exposition
Yeah.
heavy. Whereas I
It
feel
is.
like if you kind of threaded that information across a series like something like Series 5 or like that, where you
Yeah, but
slowly
I
learn
wouldn't know
more
how
about
you
the
do it
Timeless Child.
though, because the idea is the Doctor doesn't know anything unless maybe this is not related to the series really, but a kind of sort of season arc where the Master's kind of leaving little clues and things like that
Yes.
of what things are, and as she learns each segment. But I think at the same time, the series dicks around with a lot of stupid stuff, like the whole Brendan thing from
Yeah, that's
episode
weird.
9. Very strange, very unneeded.
Mm.
It becomes addedly more and more confusing. Ashad, the idea of the lone Cyberman, is then just shrunk in Timeless Children.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Timeless Children. I've seen it quite a few times now, and I can fully say I like it. Like I do like it, and I think it is good.
Interesting.
I mean, a lot of people don't, and I understand that. I understand that based on the arcs and everything like that. But with Timeless Children, it's one of those ones that I can just sort of shut off my brain and kind of just enjoy it for what it is and not think about it too much. But obviously, I am currently writing about it for a video, but
Mm.
it's it throws lots of stuff, like you said, at the wall and hopes something sticks. Like you got the Cyber Masters, throws that at the wall.
Yeah.
Like we haven't meant there is so much stuff happening within this series that it's impossible for all of it to get the good payoff that it deserves. The idea of Cyber Masters is good. I think I think that there's a lot of stuff that the Cybermen do wrong within the episode. Like I hate how Ashad just wants to be a robot. Like,
Oh,
that's
I
his
hate
thing.
that.
I just want to be a
That
robot.
is the thing is that is so
No, guys.
overlooked. No one speaks about
I know.
the Cybermen in that story. But for
Yeah.
me, the Cybermen in that episode is one of the worst parts about it because essentially, like the thing is that the Cybermen, like the core part of the Cybermen, as everyone knows, is that they're partially converted
Yeah.
humans. So you'd think a story where the Cybermen want to become literal
I
robots
know.
would get the fandom in
And no one
uproar, but no
talks
one
about
talks
it
about it.
ever. And this is something I noticed last time I watched the episode, which brought on the idea that, oh, in March, I'll make a video and I'll talk about the episode and I'll talk
Mm.
about what's actually wrong with it beyond just the timeless children things that everyone talks about. Because I watched my review last week in order to talk about it today. I was just curious, really, what I was thinking, like what I was thinking at the time. And a lot of my review, even though I tried not to be, was about the arc and kind of the action of the Cybermen, but not really delving into the plot of them because they
Yeah.
lose their plot completely. I mean, Ashad is a lot of wasted potential. I think if I had to sum up this series, it's wasted potential for most of it because there's
Yeah,
just
pretty
so
much.
much stuff that could have worked so coolly, so well, and they just seem to not want to do it. They want to be looking at this and then looking at this and then looking at that, and never go into any depth on anything. I think it's
Mm.
probably worse than doing something badly. Is doing multiple things but not delivering.
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much. I think that's why the
Moffat
timeless
did that a few
children.
times.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing as well. Is I find particularly some of the criticism or praise of Series 12, particularly the praise, often a bit weird. Like I think that because everyone like kind of criticized Moffat, especially towards the end for a lot of his stories, but Chibnall is kind of doing the same thing, if not worse, in terms of how it's like the series is constructed. I'd argue. But
Yeah,
it's not really getting the same reception, which I guess it's kind of with I think the thing is with Series 11 because it was so barren of anything interesting. People have almost accepted that they'd rather have kind of like this flawed arc than nothing, which
yeah.
I think it's a bit odd, but
I
yeah, I
think that
think
I always give it benefit of a doubt more than I probably would to other series. And I think that the only reason I do that is because there is a group of people that instead of just not liking the episode, like it to such a degree that they want to see the show cancelled, which it doesn't
yeah
deserve to be cancelled on something. So something like that. It would have to be basically unwatchable. Like they would have to ruin
mm,
every bit of it. And the idea of the Doctor and all of that works so well alone that it doesn't need to keep like you can go different ways. And I think that Chibnall has a plan, and the likelihood that what we need to do is hope that he knows what he's doing. The Cybermaster thing, that's probably going to come back. And sometimes you look at things and think, oh god, like the filming of series 13, and they're like, oh whoa, we've got Sontarans now and Weeping Angels, and it's like, what? But you're only doing 8 episodes,
yeah.
so you're going to do a Sontaran two-parter, as everyone's talked about, and then a Weeping Angel episode. Plus, you've probably got a lot of arc stuff to do, and to me, I think that with
Mm.
these rumors that we have that are still going, even though it was months ago that they started out, that with Jodie and everything like that, it's all become worse for her to stay. Because if she stays, the idea of the whole 3 series arc that they normally do in Doctor Who is that they do 3 series and they go. That's surely in the mind of Chibnall in some way. That has to be like he must be thinking, oh,
Yeah.
we better start writing her exit at this point because we want to come up with something that allows her to leave because you can't have, and this is what I would absolutely hate for her run on the show would be that they don't know what to do. Like Chibnall doesn't know what to do with it to such an extent that he leaves things for the next Doctor.
Mm.
So if the Timeless Children doesn't end, I don't want to see Jodie regenerate and then for it to continue into the next Doctor, which I think would be worse than just having her finish her stuff. Because I think that this is hers and it needs to end with her. It can't continue.
Yeah, I think we're in a kind of similar situation with the kind of Matt Smith silence arc that was obviously continuing throughout his run,
Yeah.
and Moffat wanting to do like have a whole series about it in Series 8, and then obviously because Matt Smith didn't want to do Series 8, he was kind of tasked with the question of, do I carry it over with another Doctor, or do I just kind of tie it up in one episode? And obviously he went with the latter and created Tom of the Doctor. So it will be interesting to see if Jodie does leave, which obviously we don't know if she is going to leave, that if Chibnall decides to hurriedly wrap it up in this series, this limited
Yeah.
episode count series, or if he decides to carry over to another Doctor. I think because the series is so limited, I'd probably want Jodie to stay on, just because I think that the problem is the amount of dangling threads that Series 12 has, that everyone was kind of hoping some of them would be tied up in Revolution of the Daleks. Not many of them really
Well,
were.
no. I
So
mean, you have Jack and his
so
promise, but nothing
yeah,
else. You know,
nothing else. It's just got like loads of open-ended
open,
questions.
open-handed.
Open-ended. What am I
Yeah.
even on about? Yeah, open-ended questions. There we go. That ultimately they need to be tied up in some way. And I just don't think you can do that in an 8-episode run where you've also got, as
No.
you said, Sontarans and Weeping Angels, and it wouldn't be done satisfyingly. And the thing is that despite I don't really like The Timeless Child, I'd at least like it to actually be like lead to something good. Like I don't want this to just be where it ends, because
Yeah. I mean, there's
the
a lot of
thing,
cool stuff that comes from it for me, because I think, well, we have Big Finish that has such expanded media, Unbound Doctors and all that kind of stuff. And all of that, and, the idea that, one, the restriction of having the 12th regeneration limit, and they kind of did it with Matt Smith to kind of give him the extra, like the recycle, the next cycle. But I think after that, like, it's going to get ridiculous if after every like 10 years I mean, Doctor Who's going to continue on some form if it's not on TV. I think, if it's going to continue on Big Finish or whatever, I think it will just continue until, the next group of fans come up and bring it back
yeah,
again. Because there's so much talent with people, right now. Like, I see, almost every week people have made their own series and all that kind of stuff. I just think that it's bound to come back, even if it gets cancelled. It won't do, to be honest. The likelihood of it getting cancelled is quite unlikely.
yeah,
With the series that they've booked in, I think they've booked up to series 14 or something like that. In a minute.
yeah. They have. I'm pretty sure.
It's definitely booked in till 60th. I mean, we've still definitely got a couple of years.
Hmm.
I'm expecting probably some hiatuses of a year or two, or whatever, before we see
Yeah,
things getting resolved with Doctor Who's arcs and all of that kind of stuff. But I'm quite happy personally to hope Chidham knows what he's doing, and
yeah,
for him to carry on, even though that the stuff that he's done, who are we? We're like just two kids that have watched Doctor Who.
yeah,
I've done media studies, I suppose. Does that make me qualified? Probably not. But I've been watching it for such a long time. The fact that I notice the issues with what they've done with the Cybermen,
yeah,
and many other people as well. They're simply just fans of the show. We've
yeah,
noticed, the Cybermen, they're screwed up. You've
yeah.
screwed the Cybermen with
They
Ashad,
have
which would have
so
been
screwed
one of
up.
the coolest things you could do with the Cybermen. But at the same time, it's like you had the right idea, but then you lost it. And then you have the Cybermasters and Gallifrey getting destroyed again. And fans have seen Gallifrey return, during the 50th and all that kind of stuff. And yet he's just destroyed it again. He's done nothing with it and just destroyed it just because. And I
Yeah,
think that's so suckish that just us two, as fans of Doctor Who, and many other people on the internet, just as fans of Doctor Who, have noticed that kind of stuff. And yet Chibnall or somebody on the crew has not and doesn't notice that exists. And I find that quite disheartening. I'm sure they're fans and everything, but sometimes you question whether they're really doing the best that they can. For there to be so many issues with Series 12, even though I enjoy it for the most part and I like the series and I watch the series occasionally, I'm still not sold on the idea that they know what they're doing with it, which is hard to say. Maybe Jodie's just not my taste of Doctor, and this run is just not my taste, which is, I think, fine. I mean, there are so many runs that I've enjoyed and stuff like that. I think it's bound to happen. I was not a big fan of the first Doctor when I was younger. That didn't mean that I was shouting at people that it needs to be cancelled, because I know that Doctor Who can always evolve and will get better and worse and everything like that. It just kind of comes with the show like this that lasts for so long, is that it will have dips and it will have dives, but at the end of the day, the show's going to revert to what you like at some point. And I'm thinking that if somebody likes it, when I see kids that sit there and they say, "Oh, I love Series 12, and I really love Jodie Whittaker, and I dress up like Jodie Whittaker, and she's my inspiration, etc." That was a bit cliche, but still, all of that kind of stuff, I think, is just good. I think that's good, and that's why I'm not completely against it, I suppose. And I feel also, like I said before, those that are against it are very much against it, which means I feel like I need to become more of a fan of the show's 12th series in order to defend it, when I just think it's good, but I come across as thinking it's like the best thing ever when it isn't, and we all know that. It's not.
Yeah, certainly.
I mean, there's a big group of fans that love it and everything like that, and that's up to them, I suppose. But I don't know about you, but it's. I love to hate it, I suppose. I love to hate it, like the Flash. I hate it.
Yeah, certainly. And I often find myself almost, because I'm not even really that big a fan of this current era, but I often find myself almost like defending it, because there's such a majority of people who kind of dislike it. I wouldn't say for the wrong reasons, but some kind of not very critical reasons, shall we say, without delving into it. So I often find myself defending the series more than I really want to, just because of that. But talking about like what you're saying about the Cybermen and stuff and how they're so screwed up, I think what you get with a lot of showrunners is like you can quite clearly see what aspects of their story that they are very much interested in, and what aspects that they almost just feel kind of that they have to do, but they're not really invested in. For example, I think with Moffat, it was the Dalek stories. You could see what he was invested in, but the Daleks were never, an aspect that he was particularly interested in, which is why I think all of his Dalek stories aren't, amazing. And I think it's the same with Chibnall with the Cybermen. I think he kind of accidentally created. I think he kind of accidentally created a something great with Ashad and stuff, but I feel like he ultimately only really included the Cybermen just because he kind of felt like he had to. And I think like what he was clearly interested in from the beginning was obviously the Timeless Child.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is when you get stuff like that, ultimately,
you can't sell the arc to people.
You can't sell the arc exactly.
Make a good trailer.
I think ultimately also parts of your writing just suffers, and if you didn't want to include something, just don't include it. I wouldn't say try and write something, but your heart's not really in it, or try and write something and then just do a complete 180 to something that you actually are interested in. I think Chris Chibnall should just construct his arcs just more consistently, I think, because I looked, and a lot of my criticisms for Series 12 that I wrote down, stuff we said about like the arc being threaded throughout, the mid-story subversions, the Chibnall co-writes, even some stuff that we're not gonna have time to talk about, like Jodie's character, the companions. All of it kind of boils down to consistency and the fact that the series ultimately isn't all that consistent. And I think that may come from Chris Chibnall having not really ever tackled an arc like this before.
I mean,
but
you're very welcome
like,
to talk about the companions and stuff like that if you wish to. I mean, we can briefly talk about them in a couple of sentences. So Yasmin, we'll go with her first, shall we? I mean, I kind of see what they did with her, and I think that she's going to get better, because I think she was good in Revolution. It's like the first time I thought, she's not a bad character. And I think that overall, Revolution was like the first episode that I went, actually, I'm like this TARDIS team a bit more than I thought I did, due to their leaving. But I think throughout series 12 there is a real disconnect between the audience and the companion,
Mm.
because they're not given much to do individually. I mean, they get moments. I mean, Spyfall, for example, things like that.
Yeah.
But they don't have, like Martha Rose has an episode when they really shine, and I'm afraid none of them really had that. I mean, Yasmin had, a couple of moments when she did that. Like she really, she kind of got close to that point when I thought, hey, this is,
Mm.
cool. Like in Thomas Children, when she's like, I'm not leaving you, Doctor. I'm coming with you.
Yeah.
But that's how I feel about the companions. I mean, Graham and Ryan. I love Graham. I think he's perfect comic relief at times. But I think that, and Bradley Walsh is excellent. But I just think sometimes they just don't know what to do with them, and they don't know what to do with Ryan either. The fact
Yeah.
that we make, if you look at series 12 and you think of all the memes that have come out of it, like my friends and I, when we shout, got chips though. So
Oh
in the
yeah,
middle
yeah,
of
yeah.
schoal, we would literally say to each other, got chips though. No one
Uh,
understood what we were talking about,
I
but
wish
we
I
did it
wish my
anyway.
school was that fun.
Um, it,
But
it was weird more than anything.
yeah, true.
But we would say that to each other. And it was kind of like, it was only 3 of us. I just want to put it wasn't like 12. It wasn't like the whole class. It was just 3 of us that would say it to each other when we saw each other, in like the corridor and things. And very, very cool moments. Like not very cool moments. Moments like that are the things, the Benny thing, which, to
Yeah.
this day, it's still a joke about Benny, and the meme of it and all that kind of stuff. I'm thinking, take yourself a little bit more seriously as well, because I think that with good characters, if you take them seriously, you play them seriously, people are going to like them more. I think that, when I look at Orphan 55, I think of Benny and I think, oh God, it's the meme one. And I don't find memes particularly funny when you've seen them 1,000 times on Twitter since last March. So, and when you look at, Thea and Love and Monsters, stuff like that, they kind of have the same representation. What? Rep. Rep. Re,
Reputation.
reputation. They
Yeah, we
still,
both can't speak
yeah,
in this
no,
podcast.
they both have the same reputation, and I
Mm.
think that that's damaging, especially when they treat the characters with such lightness. I mean, the first time I watched it, I went, God, she says Benny a lot, doesn't she? I mean, can she do
Yeah.
anything else? It feels almost intentional that that's where they were going with it, for it to become the meme. And
Well, yeah.
uh,
I feel like a lot of Chip and Dale's Doctor Who is kind of like that. How do you do, fellow kids? Kind of thing with the amount of like real world references the Doctor says. Like the amount of things that she just references. It
yeah,
does feel
I
like,
mean,
what do kids say these days? And a middle-aged board executive is like, well, kids say fam a lot, don't they? And they're like, right, we'll put it in every single
yeah,
script and
I
make
hate
the
it.
Doctor feel really cool, and it just does the exact opposite. But uh,
It's when they treat such things as a joke, like the relationship between the characters becomes forced when it treats it as a
yeah.
joke, and I think that is just a horrible way to go about characterization for me. No, I don't.
Certainly.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, and I think yeah, my biggest problem with the companions really is it kind of revolves around Can You Hear Me? Like with Can You Hear Me, it just feels
Yeah,
like
that's
it's
what I was
just a
thinking
lot of
about.
stuff that just come out of nowhere in that story. Like Yaz's depression, Ryan one like having friends now, like since when? And obviously Graham's cancer, although that is more established. But these like Ryan and Yaz, those aspects just kind of come out of nowhere, and it feels like a bit too little, too late. So I think like those should have been threaded throughout this series or even throughout both series, especially with Ryan, that whole aspect of his friends becomes a key aspect of his departure in Revolution of the Daleks. So why not hint at it a bit more in
I
series
know.
12?
Yeah. And maybe even in Revolution, what? Revolution of the Daleks hinted it a bit more. Show it instead of actually just saying that he has it, because it makes his leaving weak, doesn't it? So, Sorry, I
Yeah,
just stole your
certainly.
thunder there, didn't I? Stole your point.
Nah. So it's yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, exactly. Like these aspects should be threaded throughout the series more. Like they shouldn't just kind of
Mm,
be dumped in one episode. And it almost feels like with a lot of it, almost feels like Chibnall just kind of making it up as he goes along.
very much so,
With a
yeah.
lot of it, yeah. And I think like the same like thing extends to the Doctor, where in some episodes she feels like a much more darker, mysterious Doctor who's trying to go after the Master and is still dealing with grief from Gallifrey being blown up. And in other episodes, she's just like, oh, I'm the bubbly, quirky Doctor from Series 11. And that is very jarring when you go from episode to episode. I think actual more consistent characterization for the Doctor would have greatly benefited her throughout Series 12, because I think there was certainly an improvement in her characterization in 12, but I just think that ultimately that consistency was just kind of needed, because it is a bit jarring where you get Fugitive of the Jadoon and she's all of a sudden this dark and mysterious Doctor who's hiding things from the companions and trying to look for the Master, despite that not being hinted at all in Orphan 55 and Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, as I said before, I think a lot of my issues are just down to consistency. It tries to do too much at once, and ultimately the series just ends up being jumbled. And I think if it was just, if they just took a quick look at the series before and just, swap things around and, yeah, just kind of made it flow a bit more and kind of evened everything out, I think we'd have, not a great series, but I think a lot of it would certainly be improved. But the series 12 that we got was just kind of a hodgepodge mess of different ideas, and while it's certainly not without its merits, I think there's certainly very good aspects of series 12. I think ultimately it's nowhere near as good as it could have done, as it could have been. And yeah, that's a real shame. But as you said, hopefully Chibnall can kind of learn from his mistakes, and Chibnall improved upon Series 11 with Series 12. So certainly I think Chris Chibnall will probably improve upon Series 12 with Series 13, hopefully anyway.
Yes, hopefully. Well, we can only hope, can't we? Um,
Certainly.
have you got anything else to mention, or are we
No,
ready to wrap up?
I think
You're very
we've kind of
welcome
covered
to it.
everything.
I mean, I think we covered my list in about 5 minutes, to be honest, and we covered every point at once, which is fine. But so I better start wrapping up then. Right. So this always takes me a little while because English. So hopefully you did enjoy this podcast. Obviously, George's links will be down in the description. You should definitely go and
Thank you.
check him out. From what I've seen from my YouTube notifications, you've just posted a video while we were recording,
I have,
which
yes.
is impressive. Um,
I had it scheduled. I wasn't like multitasking, speaking to you while with the other hand just uploading it.
I've done
Yeah,
that
I
before. A
have.
couple of months ago, it was New Year's Day, and I was uploading the review on my laptop next to me while recording the podcast as well. It was very, very surreal, I suppose, because I was trying to do both. It was strange.
Hmm,
But obviously, your links will be down in the description. You should definitely go and
thank you.
check him out. He's very underrated. What can I say? Um, and he deserves more subscribers. In terms of me and my podcast, myself, obviously my links are also down in the description below, which you should definitely check out. I should also put a link to the video talking about the Timeless Children, the one that I keep mentioning throughout this podcast. I should be putting that down in the link down in the description below, which is very lovely. Which is great. And then I will have the link tree if you're listening to this on YouTube or you're listening to this on one platform and wish to switch. I don't know why. You can click on the link tree, which is down in the description, and there you can find the podcast on a whole bunch of platforms. I'm going to try and name them again. Okay, so YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Podchaser, to name a few. But anyway, that is this month. Next month, God knows what we're going to do. It's coming into April now, which is insane. And it doesn't feel like that long ago since we were talking about Revolution of the Daleks back
Oh,
on
Christ.
January 1st for the podcast. But here we go again. But anyway, there's nothing nothing to say. What? I'm going to start that sentence. I will literally cut this sentence out. there is absolutely nothing else to say, but thank you very much for watching, and we shall see you soon. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.